All right. Hey, good evening, folks. Once again, we are back, but we are not taking a look at the tropics. Today is Monday, December 30th, 2024, and instead we are talking about a potential Arctic blast set to invade the eastern U.S. going into January. Last time we talked, we were talking hurricanes. That's mostly what we talk around here. But, anytime there's some pretty significant weather events going on in terms of, thunderstorms or whatever else, freezing cold, all that sort of stuff, we will occasionally talk. And we're also dusting off some new equipment, new computer, new recording software. So kind of getting some kinks out while we're at it. So current satellite presentation, not showing a whole lot going on. It's been a pretty quiet week or so with weather after that big severe weather event over the last 24, 48 hours. A lot of tornado warnings and severe storms across the southeast. We've kind of calmed down, and things are going to be pretty much calm through New Year's, and then a little bit after. But as we work into January, guys, we are talking about some really cold air coming into the eastern U.S. Now, there's been a lot of talk about extreme cold and everyone's going to die and snow in Florida and da-da-da. We're going to cut through a lot of that, kind of get you what you need to know. We will start with the overall pattern. So this is just the CPC outlook. So January 5 through 9, forecasting much below normal temperatures, invading much of the eastern and central U.S. And then as we work into the 7 to 13 January timeframe, much more cold air continues to invade and builds up. And then we are talking about high likelihood, high confidence that we are going to see much colder air get into us to the eastern U.S. going into the middle of January. And this could even last beyond that. So let's quickly go over the broad scale pattern. We're not going to go all in the weeds with the meteorology and the North Atlantic Oscillation and all that, but we're going to show roughly what's going on. So this is our long wave hemispheric pattern. For the sake of argument and sake of time, anything you see in blue is kind of a trough, and that's kind of showing cooler than normal air. And then anything you see in red is a bit more above normal in terms of temperatures. So it shows high and low pressure or high and low heights, but it also kind of, with a correlation, does show temperature to some degree. So overall, the current pattern over the U.S. is pretty mild. You have this kind of Pacific jet moving in, and then it's kind of pushing some more mild air. Some cooler air is lurked in, but it's not really all that cold for this time of year. Not really all that bad. And as we go into New Year's Day, we're still going to kind of have that around, still generally mild. You see a lot of blue, but it's really not all that bad of a pattern given this look of this really flat entrance to the U.S. What we have up here building near Greenland is a pretty strong ridge. You have this minus NAO pattern that is going to start building a ridge over Greenland, displacing the Icelandic low, and that's going to start to push the cold air from the poles and start moving it down towards Canada. Now, what's going to also happen as we go into January is kind of this 1-2 punch here, is that we're also going to see a West Coast ridge build. So as I go a little bit further in January, we'll go ahead and take you into about the 4th or 5th. This is when things start becoming, we start having issues, right? You have this high continuing to build over Greenland, and you start having this ridge building. The ridge is actually split right here, but you basically have this ridge starting to develop over the West Coast. And this little trough will probably get dug out over the next couple of days on the model. And then as we work into about the 8th, this is when we start really seeing the fruits of the pattern. So now we have this really strong ridge over Greenland. We have this really strong ridge going up into Canada and British Columbia. I mean, that should be zigzag, but y'all see what I mean. And this is the problem. All this cold air comes surging out of Canada because it has nowhere left to go. It's being pinched on this side, it's being pinched on this side, and it gets pinched up, and there's nowhere else for this air to go. And it is going to come racing down into the southeast U.S. and central U.S., Ohio Valley, New England. Everyone's going to feel it. Okay, so that's kind of the basic setup. This is like the basic setup to get Arctic outbreaks. This is going to kind of come in stages. You can see the cold air piled up over Canada early in the month. And then as we go into the middle of January, repeated blasts of cold air continue to come out. And then all that red you see up here is that displacement ridges coming in and forcing that air to move southward. So that's a kind of another illustration for you. How this actually sets up is going to be in a couple different storm systems. So we're looking at New Year's Day on the GFS, cooler, turning colder, but nothing bad as of yet. But as we go into the middle of, the first week of January, our first storm system, we kind of have a couple fronts, like a couple early fronts that start moving this air south, but nothing amazing for the beginning of the end of New Year's week into this weekend. Going into next week, so Monday of next week, early Monday of next week, this is the first kind of storm system. This is the first kind of big clipper that's going to move into the eastern U.S. We are likely looking at a significant snow event for some of the Midwest, for the Ohio Valley, likely a snow and potential ice event for the Tennessee Valley, maybe the northern Piedmont, some of the western or eastern plains. For the southeast U.S. and for Florida, this will just be rain. This is not going to have enough cold air to work with early on, and the storm track and trajectory will not be favorable for any kind of winter weather in the southeast, okay? We'll move this through Monday into Tuesday, so you can see freezing rain, snow, all kinds of stuff mixed in here for the middle eastern kind of U.S. And then this moves out on Wednesday the 8th. And then Thursday into Friday, this is the next storm system going in Friday into the weekend. So, a week from this coming Friday this is the window that opens up for any potential snow/ice events for the southeast. Now, I can tell you right now, the models have already sort of backed off on the snow thing, especially for the deep south. We're talking South Mississippi, South Alabama, South Georgia, and northern Florida, okay? A lot of people are going to be asking, well, is it going to snow in Florida? Are we getting another 1989 or 83 or whatever? The answer right now is probably no. I think there's not going to be just enough cold air just yet, and the low is probably not going to take the track. This is the general setup, but this is a very fine line because now you have cold air entrenched over the eastern U.S., and then you have a low pressure kind of running up under it, but the timing has to be just right because if it's not, you won't get snow out of it in the southeast and especially the deep south here. So models have trended away from a big snow event down here, instead looking more like rain, really cold rain, and then the snow could be more up towards the Tennessee Valley or maybe northern Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama. We can best look at this with ensemble guidance, which will show us here. ECMWF here on Weather Bell shows about a 10% or less chance of winter weather getting to the deep south, and even then that's like grazing Louisiana, maybe Mississippi, and maybe a couple counties in northern Florida, in the Panhandle, north of Pensacola, really shown that to be about it. GFS, even less impressed, really doesn't show much of a chance at all, maybe a little bit of a 10% or less. This is just a probability of having at least 1 inch of snow, something that's remotely verifiable or accumulating. Does not mean you won't see a few flakes or some flurries. That could very well happen. We've seen that a couple times, but a widespread okay, it's really going to snow event, I would say is somewhat unlikely. Now, this is the ensemble output for the individual runs, and a few of them still show a chance of snow. The GFS has a couple members that have some heavier snow for like the Gulf Coast / northern Florida, but you can see here it's not many. Euro has a few more than the GFS. There's a couple more in the Euro, but even then, the Euro for most cases is backing off of it. Some members still show like a big snow event. And yes, the ingredients are possibly there, but it is such a fine line to walk. I'm telling you guys, it's really hard to hit. So, I could see something like maybe 2014 where we had like that freezing rain in Lake City and we had the snow belt that drove through Atlanta and maybe like Jackson and Montgomery or something. But getting it much further south than that, I'm not sold. CPC guidance does have that line for a slight risk through the northern half of MSAL, Georgia, and some of the Carolinas, but does not have it for northern Florida. So again, guys, I don't think it's going to happen in Jacksonville, but we'll see. Talking temperatures, though, again, that's going to be the bigger story here, and the high risk of below normal temperatures, much below normal temperatures, 9th to the 11th for much of this deep south, but that slight risk and moderate risk starting as early as the 7th, and it could be even earlier on some cases, and this could very well go later because this model only goes out to about the 13th or so. Looking at the actual potential temperatures, I'm just going to go ahead and use Jacksonville's. I know most of my viewers are there. You can kind of see the roller coaster. Going into New Year's Eve, you're as high as 77 degrees, and boy, if you like warm weather, enjoy that, because you can see just after New Year's, we'll have this period of much cooler, but probably about normal for early January, highs in the upper 50s, low 60s, lows in the 30s and 40s, but probably not going to see many freezes, a little bit of frost here and there. But then you can see starting next week, the 6th and Monday, after that, you have this sharp decline, and then you have a week plus of 40 highs. Guys, the yellow is highs. We're talking highs in the mid 40s, maybe about 50. Some days not even getting out of the 30s. There's a day right now the euro is calling for the high of 39, and you can see many days we are falling below freezing, and some of these days you could be talking about widespread hard freezes, like 8, 9, 10 hours of freezing temperatures and lows dipping into the 20s. And if this sets up just right, we could maybe go even lower than that. Wind chills will also be even lower than this. So that's just one example of the potential here. And even the euro showing those 20s invading into northern Florida down all the way to near Tampa, and then freezing temperatures all the way down to Lake Okeechobee and southwest Florida, and even 30s as far south as Miami. So guys, this is going to be pretty real when it gets in. You can see that widespread cold by the end of next week really taking place. And again, I want to stress that even going into week 3 and 4, we're talking about all the way out to January 24th, maybe even beyond. There's a good chance that this pattern is not going to go anywhere. GFS model here, as I take you through the coldest part here, the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, you see that brutal cold taking into the eastern U.S. That rotates out, but then you have a series of more troughs, more fronts, more cold. This low, but does not move because these giant ridges over the west coast and over Greenland don't go anywhere. So the cold air is just going to dance out, and then it's going to rotate back, and it's going to rotate back, and it's just going to keep repeating and reloading until the pattern changes. And I can run this model all the way out to 384 hours, and we just have more cold. This is going to stick around a while, and that's going to be the big story. It's not going to be, oh, it's going to be cold for a few days, or, oh, we might get a few flurries on the 10th or 11th or whatever. It's going to be like, this is going to last for like 2+ weeks. This is going to be a long-term impact. So definitely worth going out, making some preparations, maybe covering some pipes up, doing some unusual things. We'll talk more about that this week, and we'll have more on this as we go on through the week. But pretty significant cold coming, guys, and it's going to be sticking around for quite a while. So that's what I got for you guys tonight. As always, thanks for watching. We'll have plenty more on the Facebook page, and we'll probably have at least one more video before the cold really sets in. That's what I got for you guys tonight. As always, thanks for watching, and have a good one.